We spend a lot of time talking about the future of finance in these huge abstract terms. Blockchain, tokenization, instant digital settlement.
Right.
But if you're running a community credit union, your main concern isn't abstract innovation. It's survival. How do you adopt cutting-edge technology without sacrificing the absolute fundamentals of community banking? We're talking compliance, member privacy, and probably most important, affordability. They can't just turn into a high-frequency trading desk to issue a digital dollar. They just can't.
And that tension is exactly why this deep dive is so fascinating. It's that practical need for innovation, but under, intense regulatory scrutiny, we're finally moving past the hype cycle.
Into the how does this actually work phase.
Exactly, into implementation. Our sources tonight really center on this one very specific document. It's a blueprint, really, for DLT adoption laid out by America's credit unions, the ACU.
And it was in a direct letter to the U.S. Treasury, right?
A direct letter. And what's so compelling is the source material doesn't just lay out the problem. It actually cross-references the ACU's list of requirements against the capabilities of one specific tech provider, Metallicus.
Okay, so we're looking at a checklist from the ACU.
And matching it against existing components. Things like the Metal blockchain, their virtual machine called PulseVM, and this specialized settlement network, the TDBN.
The ACU letter basically confirms what these institutions need, a solution that's built for them.
Yes, one that reduces operational costs, makes compliance smarter, and this is key guarantees they keep control over their member data. This isn't some theoretical white paper stuff. This is an examination of how this tech is being used today, right now, in the most heavily regulated corner of American banking.
Okay, so yeah, let's unpack this. The ACU letter has 7 critical challenges that have to be solved. Our mission is to walk through that blueprint and see how the technology really claims to meet every single one of those demands.
And we should probably start with the biggest headache of all.
Cost and scale.
Exactly.
Yeah.
For small and mid-sized credit unions, the hurdle is always that initial infrastructure investment.
Right. The first big challenge the ACU brought up was avoiding new burdens. Yep. They were really clear with the Treasury. Small institutions cannot, and they will not, absorb these expensive enterprise-level compliance systems, or maybe the worst phrase in banking.
Oh, I know this one.
Massive system migrations.
Ugh, yeah. They need something that's scalable, modular, and, well, to use their phrase,
plug and play.
Plug and play. That phrase is so fundamental here. They're demanding access to the benefits of DLT, instant settlement, digital identity, but without that enterprise price tag.
And without the massive disruption of a core conversion.
All
okay,
right.
But let's be skeptical for a second. That sounds great, but a core conversion is usually necessary because the tech has to, restructure how data is held. How can any cutting-edge blockchain integration genuinely promise no core conversion and still be plug and play?
That is the critical question.
Yeah.
And the answer is really in the architecture's ability to separate the regulated asset movement from the core ledger. Doesn't try to replace the core.
It integrates with it.
Exactly, via APIs that are already there. The solution is all about these private institution-controlled subnets. You should think of them as dedicated secure lanes on the bigger Metal blockchain highway.
Okay, can you break down what a private subnet means for someone listening?
Sure. So instead of putting all their transaction data onto a big, open, public ledger, a credit union gets its own isolated compliance environment. This subnet sits right next to the credit union's existing core system.
Okay.
It handles the specific things needed for digital assets, like issuing a stablecoin and settling it instantly.
Right.
And then it uses existing API integrations, the sources cite common cores like Fiserv and Jack Henry, to feed the accounting data back to the core.
Ah, so that's how it works. That's how the system can handle, say, a one-to-one US dollar-backed stablecoin without forcing the credit union to completely reinvent its tech stack.
Precisely. The core is still the system of record for account balances, for traditional banking. But the subnet becomes the system of record for the digital asset movement and all that regulatory data.
Which addresses the administrative overhead. And that leads right into the affordability demand.
It does. And that brings us to the ACU's 6th challenge. Solutions must be affordable. I mean, for community institutions, budget, staffing, vendor dependency, these are very real, everyday constraints. They need systems where the cost is predictable and low.
And the response here is all about that lightweight deployment. Because the underlying blockchain infrastructure is maintained by Metallicus, it takes that burden off the individual credit union.
Right. They don't need to hire a team of blockchain engineers.
Exactly. And the TDBN, those regulated payment rails, they were designed specifically with smaller institutions in mind, so they aren't priced out of modernizing their systems.
And if we connect this to the bigger picture, the goal is modernization that actually respects the scale and budget of the community sector.
Which is so different from the typical expensive enterprise solutions.
Completely different. Those often require you to retrofit your entire business model around a new technology. Here, the technology claims to retrofit itself around the existing framework. That's the fundamental difference.
Okay, so they've solved the budget puzzle. Let's switch gears to compliance intelligence. This is a big one. The ACU's second challenge is all about better intelligence, not more noise. And we all know the problem with current anti-money laundering systems. They just produce these massive volumes of false positives.
It's a huge drain on compliance departments everywhere. The noise is overwhelming. So the response here relies on these advanced on-chain tools to bring some real precision to the tracking and reporting.
And the key piece of tech they mention here is PulseVM. What exactly is a banking-optimized virtual machine? How is that different from a standard one you might hear about in the, broader crypto world?
That's a great question. A standard virtual machine, like the Ethereum virtual machine, is designed for maximum flexibility. It can handle really complex, sometimes kind of messy, general-purpose smart contracts. PulseVM is different. It's specifically optimized for high-speed financial transactions and, most critically, for regulatory logic. It's designed to execute compliant transfers, and only transfers that follow specific pre-programmed rules.
So how does that actually translate into fewer false positives for the compliance officers sitting at their desk?
It's really twofold. First, PulseVM, combined with KYC-anchored identity, it just reduces the ambiguity. Since the identity of the regulated entity is anchored on-chain, we know which credit union or member is involved. You instantly cut down on the guesswork.
And the second part?
Immutable audit trails. When every single step of a transaction is recorded instantly and can't be changed, and the compliance rule is enforced by the smart contract before settlement, well, investigative accuracy just skyrockets. You get rid of the blind spots that you have in delayed batch processes.
Okay, and this is where it gets really interesting. The member privacy component, the third ACU challenge, secure innovation that protects member privacy. They explicitly warn the Treasury that this tech advancement can't just become a system for mass surveillance.
And this is a huge deal for credit unions. Their entire model is built on trust, on being member-centric. They need regulatory tools, but they absolutely cannot compromise on member sovereignty.
So how does the architecture handle that? It seems like a contradiction, right? Full compliance tracking and strong member privacy.
It does, but it's handled by using those private subnets we talked about, plus something the source calls selective transparency. The private subnet makes sure the institution has complete control over what data is public versus private.
I see.
And the architecture is designed to be zero-knowledge friendly, so it's ready for future privacy tools. But the immediate practical use is just making sure that only the necessary compliance teams see the necessary data.
So a compliance team only sees what they absolutely must see to do their job and nothing else.
Precisely. The system is a firewall. It also provides data residency flexibility, so institutions can decide exactly where their member data lives instead of having it scattered across some global open ledger. They're trying to give you robust regulatory tools without breaking that foundational trust model.
That makes perfect sense. Okay, let's pivot to collaboration and, practicality. We've established the tech can be affordable and intelligent. But does it play well with the government? ACU Challenge 4 is about government collaboration and real-time feedback.
Yeah, the ACU basically argues that suspicious activity reports, or SARs, are just a one-way street right now.
Institutions send in these massive reports, but they rarely get useful data back. They want a better data flow, more real time.
So the proposed solution leverages the nature of these private permission networks. By operating on a private blockchain, institutions can create these shared, secure compliance channels.
Okay.
And that allows for configurable reporting automation using the smart contract logic from PulseVM.
So the contract logic doesn't just execute the transaction, it also automatically formats the SAR data that's needed.
Exactly. And critically, the system is aligned with ISO 2022 standards. This means you get consistent formatting across all institutions, which results in faster, cleaner, regulator-ready data.
So instead of a mountain of unstructured reports, regulators get clean, consistent signals.
Which, in theory, allows them to provide better, more timely feedback. It becomes a two-way street.
All right, now we get to what I think is the most important part, the proof. Challenge 5 is about practical support for new technologies. The ACU confirms the future is digital identity, real-time settlement, but they warn against pushing unusable theoretical tech onto small institutions.
Right. And this is where the source material really shifts from features to facts. They stop talking about what the system could do.
And start talking about what's already happening. Absolutely. The claim is this is not a theory, it's being used. We learn that CU-branded stablecoins are already in pilot.
They cite Cloud Dollar, CLD, as the first CU-issued stablecoin in U.S. history.
And that's the cornerstone of their whole argument, that this solution is practical.
The Cloud Dollar pilot is revolutionary. It proves the entire compliance loop from identity verification all the way to regulated issuance is operational. This isn't some big tech company issuing a private coin. This is a regulated, community-focused institution using a federated identity framework to issue a one-to-one USD-backed stablecoin.
And the source says over 15 credit unions are actively testing it.
Over 15 are actively testing Metal blockchain for issuance and settlement.
So what's the implication of a credit union issuing its own stablecoin versus, I don't know, using a standard wire transfer or even a third-party coin like USDC?
It comes down to control, cost, and speed. First, control. The credit union maintains full regulatory authority over it.
Which reinforces that sovereignty we talked about.
Exactly. Second, speed. Stablecoins are instant, real-time settlement, no more ACH or wire delays. And third, that federated identity system means KYC and AML standards are baked into the asset itself.
Wow.
It radically simplifies compliance. You move it from a post-transaction audit to a pre-transaction enforcement.
That proof of concept just completely changes the conversation. The hurdle isn't building the tech anymore, it's integrating it and getting regulatory acceptance.
Which leads right into the final challenge. Systems that evolve as threats evolve. Illicit finance is dynamic now. You have fraud rings, AI-generated identities.
Fast-moving global flows. Static compliance systems, the ones that rely on old batch files, they're just not adequate anymore. They're stuck looking at yesterday's transactions.
Exactly. So the solution here is a dynamic, programmable compliance model. They use smart contract-based compliance rules, that's PulseVM again, that can adapt instantly. If a regulator issues new guidance, that logic can be updated immediately in the smart contracts.
So you get programmable triggers for suspicious activity.
Triggers that use real-time settlement data, not delayed batch files.
What's fascinating here is just the fundamental shift in thinking. We are moving from simply documenting suspicious activity after the fact, which is the historical model, toward dynamic, programmable AML tools that can respond the moment a condition is met.
Potentially preventing the illicit activity from even completing. It's the difference between a camera that takes a picture of a crime scene after it happens
versus a gate that only opens if specific compliant conditions are met instantly.
Right. The focus shifts from audit to enforcement.
Okay, so let's tie this all together. The ACU letter, it's not a wish list. It's a clear, comprehensive blueprint. It defines the standard for practical, compliant innovation in community banking.
It demands affordability, intelligent compliance, sovereignty, and real-time capability.
And the sources show that the model to support this, it already exists. The tech provider, Metallicus, claims to have delivered every single component.
Stablecoin rails designed for credit unions, private blockchains engineered for compliance, on-chain identity, programmable AML tools, and that banking-grade virtual machine, PulseVM.
So what does this all mean for the financial landscape? The conclusion seems to be that community institutions aren't just sitting around waiting. By actively getting into pilots like Cloud Dollar, they're showing that the model for innovation, one that protects them while delivering cutting-edge tech, is already being tested. It's being used in the real world.
And that leads to a really crucial final thought for you to consider.
Yeah.
Given the success and the regulatory acceptance of these pilots, with CU-branded stablecoins like Cloud Dollar and this whole underlying infrastructure, we have to ask a question. How might the widespread adoption of these pre-built federated systems shift the entire regulatory focus away from technology creation, because that's clearly happening, and towards standardized enforcement metrics across the entire community banking sector?
Yeah.
That shift, that could be the biggest change finance has seen in a generation.